Hi, I'm Sandy Genovese, and today we are looking at how to create a scrapbook that you can make for your mom for Mother's Day or just because she's special. Here is one that I made for my mom, and she passed away several years ago, but it really touched my heart to see that she saved it. And so I keep it still, and it's surprising how often I still go back and look through it. You can see I've used it to feature flowers because she was really big in gardening and loved flowers, and our yard always looked fabulous. It's tied with a bow to close, and when you untie the bow and open it, you can see that it's kind of fun. I've used the same flower theme as a way to highlight the fact that the pages are graduated in length so that each one is slightly, just about 1/8 of an inch at the most, different in length. And when you go through the pages, you can see that I've used it to highlight pictures of her when she was a baby, and then a picture of her with her mother, and then here's pictures of her with me when I was a baby, and then me a little bit older when I know I was really pretty difficult, and then a picture of the whole family on my parents' 50th wedding anniversary. So just a simple little scrapbook, but surprisingly just 3 sheets of paper folded generate 6 pages, but if you think of fronts and backs, you have 12 surfaces on which to place photos and messages, journaling, all kinds of cool stuff. It's a fun thing to do. So in order to start, you want to start with what will be the outside of the scrapbook, the cover, the structure of the book itself. I had a scrap of paper and it was 5 inches by 19 inches long. And the length doesn't have to be exact. I'll show you why. You're going to fold it in half, right down the middle, and then you're going to fold it, and I folded this in half again, and initially my paper was long enough that it was about 19.5 inches to begin with. I've trimmed off a little bit from what will be the front and the back cover, and that's because we're going to punch a hole in the middle, and you want to make sure that when this inside cover, you want to clear where that hole is. And the same thing when you get to this inside, the inside cover of the back cover. You need to clear that hole. So that's how come I have this folded portion smaller than just folding the whole book and having the pages meet in the middle. So I started with 19.5 inches long, and I trimmed about 1/2 inch off in order to clear. And when we punch those holes, in fact, let's punch the holes and then you'll see even more what I mean. I've marked midway, I've marked the halfway point, and I'm going to punch a hole, just an 1/8 inch circle out of what will be the outside. And then you can use this as a guide to lay this down, mark a hole, and do the same thing for one is going to be the front and one is going to be the back. And then we need to talk about that middle. So once again, halfway, you're going to mark the hole and then close the pages up and punch out where that middle hole is going to go. And I can see that I still have a little bit of pencil that shows, so I'm going to get rid of any pencil marks. So when you look at this, you can see why now these holes are what I wanted to clear when I trimmed off this inside front cover and inside back cover. Hopefully that's clear. The next thing we want to look at is the window that you can see. Here's the window, and the window sits in what will be this second panel because this inside cover is going to close over it. Well, I used an Anywhere punch from Martha Stewart, but I hate to show you a project that requires you to go buy something if you don't already have it, and I think more of you probably have these square and circle punches. So I opted to show you how to build this, but I'm going to show you both ways in case you want to see how these Anywhere punches work, or in case you already have an Anywhere punch. This is the middle, and I can only slide, because this is not an Anywhere punch, the furthest this punch goes is right here. So what I've done is I've marked when I'm in the middle of halfway from this edge and halfway from this folded edge is where this is going to go. And I'm going to go ahead and use this as my guide to punch out my square window. I think that this works just fine, and you don't need to purchase. I think it looks, you have a nice space here to put a big message or a nice title, and it will show more when you place colored paper behind this window. So I'm going to go ahead and with a Post-it note, you can see how you have a nice color behind that window. If you're going to use the Anywhere punch, I thought I would show you how it works. I'm not going to punch it out of here because I've already punched there. But the Anywhere punch is what I used in order to get the opening that you see in this one. And basically, you take the punch. Magnets are what hold it together, and that's why it allows you to punch anywhere on the page. So if I wanted to punch this shape out of this opening, I could I usually cut it out of something first. I trace it, and then I use the pencil marks as a guide to see where to place this. And when it lines up with my pencil marks, then I take this, and with the magnets, I need to turn it until the magnets are aligned, which I can tell is not yet. There we go. So when the magnets line up, and then you can see how it's become askew. So at this point, I would turn this until it's straight and it lines up with my pencil marks. And then all you need to do is push down. I don't want to ruin the inside cover of this, but I'll just take my Post-it note and we'll use this. So if this is what I was cutting, I'm going to punch. And look at how great it punches out that window. Gives you the little decorative shape as well. And all of it's done just with magnets. Very cool. So either way will work depending on what you choose. Once you have that, now let's look at the interior pages. I started with paper that was a cream color. The dimensions of my paper, in order to give myself plenty of wiggle room, 4 3/4 wide and 9 1/8 inches long. And I have 3 of them, and I just cut them all at the same time on the paper cutter. Fold them all in half. They're going to get stapled into the book, but I need to create the graduated length. I have one that I've already graduated so that I can show you. This front page is the one that's the back is going to get left intact. I'm not trimming anything away from the back, but the front is going to have the most trimmed away. And then when I look at the next page, you can see that I have to trim a little bit off of the back and a little bit more. If I open this like this, you can see a little bit more off of the front, so that when I place it inside, now I have about an 1/8 inch between these two layers and about an 1/8 inch between these two layers. But I still have a nice big chunk here, which is what I need for this final one to sit inside. And the final one, once again, you just lay them inside and trim away little pieces, because I wanted a very slight variation so that I have about an 1/8 inch of each of these. It's not very obvious until you start adding the flowers. And when you add the flowers, it's very cool. But before we put the flowers on there, I'm going to staple it into the book because I don't want the flowers to be in my way. So in order to staple this, once again, if you don't have a long neck stapler, I don't want you to have to go buy one, and you don't need to. All you need to do is take and tap all the pages so they're aligned with the folded edge. Align the fold with the cover, and then I think it might be easiest to just pull this inside and pull this inside. Why not? So my folds are lined up, and I have a top and a bottom lip showing of the blue, so that when the folds are together, and then I'm going to open it up, place the folded edge on this piece of this old ancient piece of cardboard that I keep using, and I'm going to take my stapler, which is here. You need a stapler that will open so that it will lie flat. and I'm going to place one staple right in the middle. You could opt to do a couple staples on either end. That works also. When it looks like it lines up with my fold, which from this angle is a little bit hard to tell, then staple right into the cardboard. So you can see that it's stapled right into the cardboard just along the fold line. And if I remove the cardboard, it is stapled right into the fold line. All I need to do, but see the staples are sticking straight up, so I just need to use a pencil eraser to close these up. And now I have a really cool scrapbook that has these layered graduated lengths. So you can see how it's going to really work. We're going to thread the ribbon through, but first let me show you how you attach the flowers. What I did was I picked flowers because it was a theme that made sense for my mom. You can put any shape. I'll show you in the end another scrapbook that I did for a guy friend of mine who was a fisherman, and I used fish. So it can be any theme. But if I take, and if the first one, I think the first one I used was the tulip. Yep. So if I take the tulip and I want this to overlap on this first page, I want it to be way at the top because I have a lot of other flowers. So I'm going, and I need to have something to overlap with the next page. So here is the tulip. I'm using the Mrs. Grossman stickers because of the fact that the mirror image allows me to place the mirror image on the back. So I'm going to turn this over and take the mirror image sticker and line it up and fasten it down. Then I would go back and I would take the next one. I'll start the next one so you can see how that works. Here is the poppy. So I decide, okay, if this is here, I want the poppy to just kind of clear. So I'm going to place the poppy about in this position. So there's the poppy. And now I take, once again, the mirror image sticker. Now I haven't looked up this particular sticker, but there is a website online that carries tons of Mrs. Grossman stickers, even ones that are discontinued that she no longer makes. It's called papery.com, Papery.com, and you can find so many of the stickers that I use all the time are on her site. So I line that up so you can see how you're beginning to develop the stages. I won't stop to do all of them. I'll just go back and show you how cool it all looks. Really like a whole garden of flowers. It's just the funnest thing. Then lastly, I want you to see how you are going to open and close the scrapbook by using ribbon. So my ribbon is, oh gosh, it's about 24 inches. Make it a little bit longer to start with, just to make it easy. And think of it almost like weaving. I'm going to start with the outside front cover. I'm going to place this so that it goes through the hole. I'm going to pull it all the way in a minute, but at this point, now I'm going to go in through this hole. And I want to keep the ribbon flat, so I'm going to pull a whole bunch more of this. Let's see what edge, this way. So twist and so that, I want it to lie flat. Now I'm going to go on the outside edge. So it's this way, and I'm going to once again just thread this back. Try to keep doing this so you can see what I'm doing through this hole. You can see why we needed to staple it first, because we're going to go right over the top of that staple. And pull this through. When it gets close to the end, then is when you want to straighten it out so that it will lie flat. Okay, so there's that. And then here, it's going to go on the inside just like it did on the front cover, only now we're on the back cover. And then the final time that I have to poke through a hole, it's getting pretty shredded, but I'm going to trim that off and fix it up. So at this point, I want this to sit like so. So I'm going to twist it. And then if it looks like, gosh, I have longer on the front than the back, it's not difficult to pull this along. I'm not sure exactly how far to go with it. I think I'll go to about there and see if that's enough. So you want to pull the ribbon so that you have, you know, a fairly even amount on the top and the bottom. Leave yourself plenty of room in order to be able to tie this in a knot. The final thing to create is the area that's going to sit inside. And once again, I just use more of the floral stickers. And because I wanted them separate from this inside window, I use the same thing, the same technique. This is a mirror sticker, a mirror image, where it's stuck to itself and it's only attached to the bottom. It's fragile, so, and it is the cover. So if you want it to be a little sturdier, you could go ahead and attach it right down to that paper. But if you want it loose like I did, then probably before we attached all this ribbon, when it was easier to open this out, would have been a good time to do that. So when you look at the finished one, you can see how easily it all has gone together, how great the flowers look, and they're just mimicked in that front. Now I mentioned to you that you don't have to do flowers. You can have all kinds of themes. Here is a scrapbook that is, I have a plexiglass front and back cover, which is really sturdy, really protects all this inside. Instead of having one graduated page, the graduated pages are in chunks. So here, this cover and these next batch of pages, there's probably 5 pages that are all this length, just with the first one with the design on both sides, the little splash. And then I go through all of these pages that are inside here until I get to the second section, and it's a whole section of, you know, 4 or 5 or 6 pages. But once again, if I flip this, you can see on the front and on the back side just the mirror image fish stickers. Then the next section. So in each case, there's a chunk of pages, but the idea really is similar. When you close all those pages up, you can see all of the gradation in those chunks of pages and all of the designs that stick out. And because those stickers are not super thick, it's helpful to have something like this plexiglass front and back cover to protect it. You know, why not celebrate your mom with a handmade scrapbook that's filled with some favorite photos of the two of you?